Commander is a casual format. I'm not here to tell you or anybody else how to play or enjoy Commander. This 3 Levels of series aims to show that you can approach the format in different ways, and that there's probably something for everyone to enjoy. The goal of each video is to showcase ideas and tools that you can choose to apply in any way that you want, and perhaps come up with your own ideas for full decks and strategies. A unique thread will be made available at the Sliver Hive Facebook page, where people can post and share their own suggestions, ideas, and even full deck lists. Remember, Slivers are always stronger together, and that applies to the Commander community as well. Now, enjoy this episode. Hello my fellow Slivers, and welcome to a new video series here at your Hive. In 3 Levels of, we will be exploring how to build one Commander in 3 different ways. Level 1 is Janky or very casual, Level 2 is a bit more focused, and Level 3 is full-on cEDH. I will provide you with both suggestions for cards and the general idea of what the game plan is for each of those 3 categories. Today we will explore the 3 levels of building Zaxara the Exemplary. Zaxara costs 1 and a Sultai, that is 1 colorless, a black, a green and a blue, and it is a 2/3 Nightmare Hydra with Death Touch and 2 very interesting abilities. If you tap Zaxara, you can add 2 mana of any one color, and whenever you cast a spell with an X in its mana cost, you will create a 0/0 green Hydra creature token and then put X +1/+1 counters on it. Zaxara is a very cool commander in my opinion. It offers some nice ramp and easy combo potential straight out of the command zone, plus its triggered ability lets you develop some board presence just by playing spells with an X in their cost. Both of these things are very desirable in Commander. So let's start with Level 1, Janky very casual Zaxara. For this type of Zaxara build, I think an X-Hydra theme could be pretty fun. And many Hydras are just a couple of dollars each, so you could realistically build this version for less than $100. Let's start with what I think are 2 categories of Hydras. First, we have Wildwood Scourge, Capricopian Hydra, Hungering Hydra, Mistcutter Hydra, Protean Hydra, and Feral Hydra, which cost X and a green, and some of them have abilities, sometimes related to combat, that can multiply the counters they already have. Then we have Voracious Hydra, Steelbane Hydra, Basswood Hydra, Genesis Hydra, and Hooded Hydra on a second category. They all cost X and 2 green, and they all have some sort of ability that resolves when you cast them, when they enter the battlefield or when they leave the battlefield. Steelbane Hydra is the exception. It has an activated ability, but what a cool one. Repeatable artifact or enchantment removal. That's always very handy in this format. Hydras that are a bit more expensive both in the money and mana department include Primordial Hydra, Hydroid Krasis, and Lifeblood Hydra. If $15 or $20 Hydras are a bit too hard on your wallet, you don't need to run them, but they are obviously very good with Zaxara. Now, we cannot just throw a bunch of Hydras and a bunch of lands and mana rocks together and call that a deck, right? Our Hydras need a little help to get bigger, to hit harder. Biomass Mutation synergizes nicely with Zaxara, but also with the rest of our Hydras. Since all of them are going to have power and toughness in the form of a number of +1/+1 counters equal to whatever it is that you paid for X, Biomass Mutation will basically be a pay X equals 1, all of your Hydras get +1/+1, pay X equals 2, all of your Hydras get +2/+2, pay X equals 4, all of your Hydras get +4/+4, and so on and so forth. That's a big chunk of damage that might just take out 1 or more opponents in later turns of the game. A similar effect can be achieved through Tribal Unity. You just choose Hydra as the creature type and all of your Hydras will get that sweet pump. Primal Might will only pump one of your Hydras, but it acts as a removal piece as well. You could even target Zaxara with this. Since Zaxara has Death Touch, it will kill most things even if X is small or 0. If you want Zaxara to survive, just make X bigger. Hell, you can use Zaxara's ability to pay for the green and an extra for the X. Now we have a bunch of Hydras and ways to make them bigger and meaner. But we should probably make sure that any Hydra we play has the potential to be gigantic as soon as it enters the battlefield, making Zaxara's minions bigger too in the process. The best way to accomplish this is have a bunch of mana, obviously, and if we can keep making Hydras while ramping or hitting our land drops, the better. Animist's Awakening is a tricky spell, since you need a big enough X to make sure that you find enough lands for this to be better than a simple Rampant Growth or Cultivate. You should probably play those cards too, by the way. Zaxara will mitigate this a little bit, since it can help making the X bigger with its mana ability, and even if you don't find a lot of lands, you will still create an XX Hydra. A similar situation happens with Nylea's Intervention. It is not ramp, since it will not put the lands on the battlefield, but it will make sure you hit all your land drops for as many turns as that X is big. And you never know, maybe you'll encounter a bunch of obnoxious flyers from time to time, so having that flexibility is kinda nice. As we said earlier, you should probably still play your Farseeks and your Kadama's Reaches as pure ramp spells. What about some nice tricks that also synergize pretty well with Zaxara? Icy Blast can stop opposing creatures from blocking. That way you can freely swing with your Hydra army. Open into Wonder offers a similar effect. It costs 1 extra blue, but for every Hydra that hits face, it will also draw you a card. The Stirring Wake can also achieve something similar, and it can even bounce other problematic permanents. However, triple blue is quite color intensive, so be mindful of that. Don't have enough Hydras in play to justify huge combat steps yet? Full Flowering can help you out by copying those Zaxara tokens, maybe even multiple times. Need specific Hydras? Uncage the Menagerie will search for 2 or even 3 Hydras for 4 or 5 mana respectively and put them right into your hand. To round things up, we're gonna mention cards that you should probably run both on Janky and more focused Zaxara builds. Spells that say draw X cards. Mind Spring, Stroke of Genius, Pull from Tomorrow, and maybe Blue Sun Zenith if your mana base can support that triple blue. And it is precisely with these cards that we'll begin level 2, a more focused Zaxara. Just like we mentioned on the previous section, most of the Draw X cards spells should have a nice home in a more focused build too. However, we should have other sources of card advantage and card selection. Epiphany at the Drownyard has always been a favorite of mine, and it gets obviously better with Zaxara on the battlefield. Return of the Wild Speaker could double down as card draw or another pump spell for our mean, bloodthirsty Hydras. We all know that Rhystic Study and Sylvan Library are as good as it gets for consistent extra card draw in blue and green, so I would suggest including them too. Mystic Remora is also a pretty solid option, easier on the wallet as well. For a more focused Zaxara build, X Hydra Tribal might not be everyone's cup of tea, so we could consider a big mana X spell tribal route with a counters and proliferation sub-theme. For the big mana part, we all probably know already that we need our Dorks and Rocks and Ram spells covered. But what about mana doublers and that kind of thing? Mana Reflection, Zendikar Resurgent, and maybe Nyxbloom Ancient are all options to consider, but try to keep your mana curve nice and efficient. Unbound Flourishing should be one of the absolute best enchantments that we can run to make our strategy really explosive. In this more focused build, Torment of Hellfire, Exsanguinate, and Villainous Wealth represent far more powerful and dangerous threats than most Hydras. If Unbound Flourishing is on the battlefield, it shouldn't be difficult to end a lot of games by just resolving one of these mean sorceries, especially Torment of Hellfire. With this new strategy, Zaxara will still be able to produce tons of Hydra tokens, so why not make them even better? Hardened Scales, Winding Constrictor, Branching Evolution, Evolution's Age, Doubling Season, Primal Vigor, and Parallel Lives are amongst the many cards that Zaxara absolutely loves. So you have plenty of options both for execution and redundancy. Also remember that one of the easiest ways to make any deck far more focused and consistent is by running some tutors. Mystical Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Worldly Tutor. These cards will go get exactly what you need when you need it. You could also include stuff like Greenstone Zenith or Finale of Devastation, which also get even better than they already are thanks to Zaxara. One more card that I absolutely love, and it could honestly be included on either the Janky build or the more focused build, is Diabolic Revelation. If you have enough mana, this will just be a turbo demonic tutor that could also put one or more big Hydras into play. This is the kind of crap that makes me love Commander. Last but not least, I would recommend running Lithoform Engine. This card is so brutal in here. Do you have 11 mana but X equals 9 is not quite enough for that Torment of Hellfire yet? Pay 8 mana for the Torment, with X being equal to 6, and then use the other 3 to copy it with the Lithoform. Now you have 2 Torments, so that's 12 iterations of its effect. If Zaxara and Unbound Flourishing are on the battlefield, that's all kinds of stupid right there. And now, the grand finale. Level 3 cEDH Zaxara. On the first 2 episodes of this series, we covered 3 levels of Kes and 3 levels of Kenan. cEDH Kes is, in very broad terms, a Demonic Consultation Thassa's Oracle deck. cEDH Kenan, also in very broad terms, is an infinite mana Thassa's Oracle or Twister Loop deck. Well, with Zaxara, you kinda have access to all of that. Let's start with the infinite mana part. Zaxara, in conjunction with either Freed from the Real or Pemin's Aura, will produce infinite mana on the spot. That's it. You just need to play your commander, or something like Bloom Tender, Incubation Druid, or Gyre Engineer, enchant them with one of these auras, and you can start tapping for 2 blue, using one of those 2 to untap, float 1, tap again for 2 extra blue, use 1 to untap, float another blue, and so on and so forth until you have all the blue mana you'll ever need. You can then use something like Pull from Tomorrow or Thrasios to draw your entire deck, and play Thassa's Oracle or Jace Wielder of Mysteries to win the game. You can also win via the Time Twister loop that I explained on the 3 levels of Kenan episode. If your opponents stop your infinite mana plan, don't worry, you still have access to blue and black, so that means a ton of tutors and or interaction that should make the Demonic Consultation / Tainted Pact plus Oracle combo fairly easy to pull off. So basically, cEDH Zaxara offers a bunch of flexibility and multiple win conditions, all backed up by what many players, myself included, consider the most powerful colors in Commander. You get access to powerful counter magic like Force of Will, Pact of Negation, Fierce Guardianship, or Flusterstorm, all the best tutors like Vampiric Tutor, Imperial Seal, Demonic Tutor, and Mystical Tutor, Time Twister loops with Swan Song, Noxious Revival, and Thrasios, efficient removal like Chain of Vapor, Drowning the Lock, Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, or Toxic Deluge, and just awesome good stuff cards like Veil of Summer, Sylvan Library, Limdul's Bolt, Rhystic Study, Windfall, Necropotence, Ad Nauseam, etc, etc. And that's it, my fellow Slivers. Those are the 3 levels of Zaxara the Exemplary. If you like this new section of the channel, please help me out by subscribing if you haven't already, leaving your thumbs up, and, above all, by sharing this video with all of your friends and Commander buddies. Remember that if this series turns out to be successful enough, I will of course do many more 3 levels off, for both commanders that I like and commanders that you would like me to cover. But now, take care my fellow Slivers, we'll gather again on the next video.